Hello and welcome to the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit's Shadowbringers Melee preview. Please be aware that all of the information in this video is based on an in-development build of Shadowbringers and is still subject to change prior to release. Before getting into the new actions and traits, some changes have been made that directly impact melee jobs. The first major change is the complete removal of TP as a resource, and realistically the concept of resource management being the limiting factor to your rotations. While you will still have an MP bar capped out at 10,000, it didn't seem to be getting much more use than it does now. Another major change is the removal of slashing, piercing and blunt resistance reductions across the board. This means that specific skills, such as Disembowel, Yukikaze, Shadow Fang and Dragon Kick, will be changed to remove or modify those effects. Role actions in Stormblood were a bit of a mixed bag, with the updates eventually giving everyone access to all of them in your roles simultaneously. While they do still exist in Shadowbringers, they've been reduced in number and are no longer customizable, instead being unlocked normally as you level. These skills include Second Wind, Leg Sweep, Bloodbath, Feint, Arm's Length and True North. This means that Diversion, Invigorate, Goad and Crutch have been removed. Second Wind, Leg Sweep and Bloodbath behave the same as they do in Stormblood in potency, duration and cooldown. Arm's Length had its knockback barrier extended from 5 seconds to 6, while doubling the cooldown to 2 minutes. Feint had its cooldown reduced from 120 seconds down to 90. And finally, True North had its duration reduced from 15 seconds to 10. However, it now has a maximum of 2 charges on a 45-second recharge time, instead of a single 90-second cooldown, giving you 5 more seconds over the same amount of time as it currently does. Please keep in mind, with the upcoming expansion, damage calculations are changing across the board. This means that while potencies might be changing, we have no way of knowing currently just how significant those changes will be. With all of that being said, let's jump into the changes coming to each of the melee jobs in Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers. Samurai remains a fairly straightforward job to play as you delve into the new expansion, with its rotation, at least at first glance, not seeming to change very much as far as the generation of Sen goes. That being said, Sen will now be used much more frequently for EI Jutsu, rather than burning it for extra Kenki due to the removal of Hagakure. In its place, Samurai receives a new ability called Iki Shoten, which provides a boost of 50 Kenki with a 60-second cooldown. Speaking of EI Jutsu, Samurai also get a few new goodies to complement their usage, starting with the trait Enhanced EI Jutsu at level 72, which lowers the casting time down to 1.3 seconds. Following this, the new skill Tsubame Gaeshi at level 76 allows you to mirror your EI Jutsu cast if used directly afterwards, with a 50% increase in potency, as if you had buffed it with Hisatsu Kaiten. Please note, however, that this is only available once every 60 seconds and cannot benefit from Kaiten. These more powerful variations are also listed in your skill list as Kaeshi Hinganbana, Kaeshi Goken, and Kaeshi Setsugeka. At level 72, you unlock Hisatsu Sene, which works as a single target counterpart to Hisatsu Guren, with which it shares the same 120-second recast timer. At first we assumed it was an attack using a second sword, but after careful sleuthing, found out that it will be smacking monsters with a fancy sheath instead. At level 78, you will unlock the enhanced Jinpu and Shifu trait, which improves Jinpu's damage increase and Shifu's speed increase from 10% to 12%. Finally, at level 80 you'll unlock the Shohar ability, which is the most confusing of the bunch. This seemingly allows you to cancel out of meditate and perform an attack based on how long you had meditated for. We currently have no experience with this one, and are looking forward to seeing how it will work. Most of the Samurai's abilities have had an increase in potency in Shadowbringers, though behave the same mechanically as they do in Stormblood, with the following exceptions. The combo starter Hakaze has had its potency increased to 180, while both Jinpu and Shifu increased to 320. The finisher skills Gecko and Kasha had their potencies increased to 470, and Yukikaze is increased to 400, while removing its slashing debuff and increasing its Kenki generation to 15. Mangetsu and Oka both had their combo potencies dropped from 200 to 160, though they now don't suffer from a reduction in damage against multiple targets. As an added bonus to your AoE rotation, Mangetsu now extends your Jinpu duration by 15 seconds, up to a maximum of 30, with Oka doing the same for Shifu. This will make it much harder, if not impossible, to drop your damage and speed buffs during your multi-target rotations. Merciful Eyes no longer reduces your enmity by 20%. Meikyo Shisui had its recast timer reduced to 60 seconds, and its duration increased to 15 seconds, allowing for some leeway if you need to delay your attack slightly. Hisatsu Shinten had its potency increased to 320. Hisatsu Seigen had its potency increased to 220. Hisatsu Guren did not have its potency increased, however it now does full damage to every enemy hit. The EI Jutsu skills also got some changes. Hingabana had its hit potency increased to 250, while its damage over time remains the same. Tenka Goken did not receive an increase in potency, but now does full damage to all enemies hit with the skill. Lastly, Midari Setsugeka got an 80 potency increase, so it now sits at 800. Overall, Samurai gets a few nice quality of life improvements, not least of which being the complete removal of TP management, making multi-target pulls easier than ever to deal with quickly. The introduction of a single target variation of Guren is a nice touch, and the increased availability of Meikyo Shisui paired with the ability to duplicate your EI Jutsu cast once per minute ensures that you'll be seeing plenty of big numbers. Ninja in the new expansion seems to have received a lot of love. From the ability to gain Ninki by simply performing weapon skills, to the removal of a cooldown on Bavakakra allowing you to use it more than once a minute, its overall gameplay should feel a lot more fast-paced, as if it wasn't quick enough already. First and foremost, let's take a look at everything ninjutsu. Tenchi Jin had its Ninki cost completely removed while retaining the same cooldown as it currently has. This will allow you to save your precious resources for a new skill we'll discuss in a moment. Kasatsu has had its recast changed, as it now works on a charge-based system. It will now have 2 charges on a 60-second timer per charge. This means that it's available twice as much as it currently is, which works great because we now have 2 new ninjutsu skills that work only while you're under this effect. Thanks to the trait Enhanced Kasatsu gained at level 76, you will now be able to cast Goken Bekiyaku and Hyosho Ranryu in place of Katon and Hyoton after using Kasatsu. This upgrades Katon to a much more powerful area of effect attack, and Hyoton into your most potent single-target ninjutsu. These work especially well considering the extra damage boost that comes with using Kasatsu in the first place. Replacing Smokescreen at level 52 is a new area of effect attack called Haki Mujin Satsu, which is a combo action after Death Blossom. It has a potency of 140 and extends Huton's duration by 10 seconds to a maximum of 70. At level 72 you gain a new skill called Meisui, which allows you to dispel your Suiton effect in exchange for 40 Ninki on a 60-second cooldown. Enhanced Shikuchi 2 comes in at level 74, which allows you to accumulate up to 2 charges of Shikuchi. Tsukiho Mastery is your new level 78 passive, which increases the amount of Ninki gained from weapon skills and finishing combos to 8. As mentioned earlier, Tsukiho and its mastery now let you gain Ninki from weapon skills instead of auto attacks, so it feels a bit less passive. And finally, for the last new skill at level 80 we have Bunshin. With the removal of duality, this skill takes its place and does its job a lot better, though with a much higher level requirement. It requires 80 Ninki and has a 120 second cooldown, summoning a shadow clone of your character for 15 seconds that mimics all of your weapon skills on the same enemy instead of just one. This is the last of the 3 Ninki spenders besides Bavakakra and Hellfrog Medium. As mentioned before, Shadowbringers will change the damage calculations a bit, so it's hard to know for sure just how much stronger or weaker potency changes will make each individual attack. With that being said, almost every single ability did get some form of potency change, typically for the better. In the interest of saving time, we will just say that the only skills that did not receive a potency change are Doton and Katon. Going into some specific changes, Ninja lost a few skills. Duality, Jugulate, Shadewalker and Smokescreen are gone, as most DPS jobs no longer have any enmity control skills. The generic stat traits Enhanced Dexterity, as well as both Dripping Blade traits, were also removed, though the damage reduction should be made up for with the rather generous potency increases. Trick Attack had no major changes outside of a potency increase, just letting you know that it's still alive and well. Next up is Assassinate. Besides a potency increase, it can no longer be used when an enemy falls below 20%, and instead requires the Assassinate Ready effect to use. This effect can be gained by using Dream Within a Dream, which operates exactly how it does now, meaning you'll be able to use Assassinate every 60 seconds. Hellfrog Medium's potency and cost remains the same as in Stormblood, however it was changed to deal 50% less to all targets after the first. Ninja received quite a few changes to improve its gameplay going into Shadowbringers, slightly improving its multi-target rotation with Haki Mujin Satsu and putting more emphasis on its ninjutsu. With Trick Attack being just as potent as it was in Stormblood, Ninja still seems like an incredibly strong contender for a spot in any party composition. It has the potential to deal a lot of damage in a very short period of time with Bunshin, and seems to be a very well-rounded job. Monk. Monk received a lot of quality of life improvements over their Stormblood iteration. They have received a new trait that increases their chance that a chakra will open upon dealing a critical strike, a few new ways to help keep Greased Lightning stacks up, and even a new way to increase the maximum stacks to 4. With all of these changes, there's absolutely no excuse for anybody to be dropping their stacks. Starting in the earlier levels, Monk lost the ever so useful 1-in punch, in favour of the Raptor form weapon skill 4-point Fury, which is a multi-target combo skill that precedes Rockbreaker. This turns the positionless third form combo into an AoE combo that monks will actually use. At level 74, Monk gains both a new trait and a skill. First up is Deep Meditation 2, which grants a 70% chance to unlock a chakra upon dealing critical damage with a weapon skill. The new skill is called Enlightenment, which is a multi-target counterpart to the Forbidden Chakra, which deals 220 potency to all targets in a straight line in front of you. One of the more interesting changes to the job comes in at 76, with the trait Riddle of Wind, which as you might guess from the name means that the old skill with the same name is now gone. This trait allows you an additional Greased Lightning stack up to a maximum of 4 while under the effects of Fists of Wind. Combined with the fact that Riddle of Fire and Riddle of Wind no longer require you to be in their respective fists, this makes switching to Fists of Wind after 3 stacks an incredibly viable choice. Level 78 brings us a skill, Anatman, a skill that halts the timer on Greased Lightning as well as your current form, and also continually adds to your Greased Lightning stacks for 30 seconds. From what was shown, this would allow you to use the skill during downtime to either avoid dropping your stacks, or to build up from nothing, allowing you to quickly refill after ending a phase with Tornado Kick. And finally we have Six-Sided Star, which is a weapon skill with 400 potency that extends the effect of Greased Lightning to its maximum duration. It's a bit unique in how it works, however, because while it does not share a recast timer with any other skills, its own recast timer of around 5 seconds is applied to all other weapon skills and magic actions. Monk, like all other DPS jobs in this expansion, received a lot of potency increases across the board, although currently we do not know how these will play out. We will, however, go over some of the more specific mechanical changes to the Monk's toolkit. Several skills were removed or replaced, such as the ever-popular Fire Tackle, Wind Tackle and Earth Tackle. Internal Release, Steel Peak, Howling Fist, Purification and 1-in Punch were also removed. 2 of those being removed due to the fact that TP management is no longer a factor, with Howling Fist no longer required thanks to the addition of 4-point Fury mentioned earlier. The generic enhanced strength traits were also removed. Dragon Kick no longer applies a blunt resistance reduction, as those effects have been removed. Instead, it grants Leaden Fist, which increases the potency of your next boot shine to 290. Arm of the Destroyer no longer has a silence effect, and is instead used as part of your multi-target rotation to enter Raptor form, which allows the use of the new 4-point Fury, and then finishing up with Rockbreaker. Shoulder Tackle is now all by itself, with the other flavours of tackle being removed. The level 66 trait Tackle Mastery instead changes it so that you can stack up to 2 charges, changing the recast time into a charge time. The stun effect was also removed. From before, both Riddle of Earth and Riddle of Fire no longer require Fists of Earth and Fists of Fire respectively to activate. While Monk did lose a few abilities in the transition over to Shadowbringers, it gained a variety of different skills and changes that provide additional options for keeping your stack timers up, and maybe using Fists of Wind for once if you enjoy going fast. The Monk is definitely a strong choice in the expansion, rewarding proper positioning and quick thinking with very respectable damage output. The Dragoon's playstyle going to Shadowbringers feels very similar to the current iteration, but with some nice quality of life improvements and quite a lot of potency increases. The addition of some new skills, as well as an improved shortened animation lock on jumps, smooths the skill rotation out nicely and makes the job feel very fluid. They also received a change to their Dragon gauge, reducing the maximum number of steps from 3 to 2, with jump being the only skill that is able to provide the dive ready status. Taking a look at the new skills, we start with the addition of Curthan Torment at level 72. This is the third and final skill on your multi-target combo, and comes after Sonic Thrust. It has a combo potency of 230, and also extends the duration of Blood of the Dragon by an additional 10 seconds, up to a maximum of 30. At level 74, Dragoons get a Jump Mastery trait, which converts Jump into High Jump, a 400 potency attack with the same cooldown. Following that, we get a Lance Master 2 at 76. This boosts the potency of True Thrust to 290 and Vorpal Thrust to 350. It also grants access to Raiden Thrust, a 330 potency attack that can only be used after activating Raiden Thrust Ready, which requires Fang and Claw to be executed following Wheeling Thrust, or vice versa, provided you hit both of their positional requirements. Another welcome change comes in at level 78 with Blood of the Dragon Mastery, which extends the duration of both Blood of the Dragon and Life of the Dragon to 30 seconds. The final new skill for Dragoon is called Stardiver, a jump attack that can only be used during Life of the Dragon. It has a cooldown of 30 seconds and deals 550 potency to the target, dropping by 30% less for all remaining enemies. Visually, it's one of the more impressive skills that any melee job received, and cements Dragoon's place as an up-close laser light show for another expansion. Due to the aforementioned changes to the damage calculations, it's hard to find a skill in Shadowbringers that didn't benefit from a potency increase, and that doesn't change with the Dragoon. Most of their weapon skills got an increase across the board, with True Thrust and Vorpal Thrust being two of the largest already mentioned. With the removing of Piercing Down, the rotation has been changed very slightly by having Heavy Thrust's effect rolled into Disembowel instead. Piercing Talon, Full Thrust, Jump, Doom Spike, Dragonfire Dive, Fang and Claw, Wheeling Thrust, Gaiaskogel, Sonic Thrust, Mirage Dive, and Nastrond all got potency increases with no additional changes. Spine Shatter Dive got a potency increase to 240 and had its stun effect removed. However, it also seems to have lost its ability to proc Dive Ready. Battle Litany's critical hit boost has been decreased to 10%, though its duration and recast time remain the same. Elusive Jump no longer has an enmity reducing effect, nor does it remove bind or heavy effects, being used solely for positioning and jumping out of melee range. As far as skill removals go, Dragoon got away much better than a certain book-wheeling healer did, only losing 2 skills. Heavy Thrust is gone, its role being taken over by Disembowel as mentioned earlier, and Impulse Drive was also removed in favour of having True Thrust as the starter for both the Full Thrust and Chaos Thrust combos. In terms of traits, Dragoon lost the generic stat boost traits, in this case Enhanced Strength. The Shadowbringers iteration of Dragoon seems to be focusing on making the class a bit more of a heavy hitter, and with the removal of resistance debuffs, makes it not mandatory to be paired up with a ranged DPS class. It continues to be a fairly straightforward job, and with the addition of a new 6th weapon skill to their main combos, it appears to have the longest single combo string out of any other melee job in the game. And that about wraps up the melee section of our Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers job preview. It's definitely exciting to see what cool new abilities we're going to get in a little over a month, and it might even be a little more difficult to choose a main job now. By far the biggest change to all of the melee jobs is not having to worry about TP anymore, which for those multi-target rotations especially will be a godsend. We hope to hear what you think about these changes. Which melee job are you most excited for? Please leave a comment at r/ffxiv.